Now you can take that as close as you want. I just think that every haircut that I do has to have a really nice softening agent in it. And if you make this undercut quite aggressive by taking it too short, it doesn't lend itself to give you a nice finished result, because you will see this if you ever tuck the hair behind the ear. I would say the hair is probably about less than an inch, and then blends out to slightly longer length around the perimeter. Most important thing is to get that nice and tight, that very first section. Right, just complete this behind the ear. And then keep that nice strong line going on at the back section here. Okay, now that's the undercut part of the haircut finish. Now what this will do is this is going to give a lot of variety, as well as keeping this soft feeling that I'm going to create down the sides here. And you can see that it removes a lot of weight, so this becomes much softer and sits nicer. Because the hairline has been moved up, this hair will move a lot more than if you hadn't sort of undercut this area. So you're going to get a lot more movement. Plus, if you were to leave one side of the hair down and then take this side of the hair and tuck it back, it actually stays better because of the undercut that's just, you can just about see it here. This area will stay better and stay tucked back better. So therefore, it makes it a lot easier to keep. Your clients or people that you work on that have got very, very thick hair, it's ideal for. And it also makes the haircut last a lot longer because you've taken away a lot of the weight. Right, what I'm going to do is to do probably the most important part of the cut, which is the front section, before I do anything else. And what I'm going to do is to take a radial section around the front, making sure that I've got enough hair to work with. So I can begin to put the design and shape into this front part of the haircut. Just take a little bit more from this side. And what I'm going to do is to come through here and carve out some sort of shorter and longer pieces through the front, but keep the line to go over and maintain the length that's already there. So I'm going to be carving a slightly different shape at the very front section. And this will also expose some of this extra colour that we've got going on inside this haircut here. Now, I'm using sort of carving motions of about 1.5 inches of hair. So you're carving in 1.5 inches and letting go all the way down. But at the same time, carving out a baseline, which goes from shorter to longer. And we'll sit across the face like that. Maintaining that length right there. Do the same thing on the other side, but what I'd like to do is to make sure that even though that blends together, what I'm going to do is to make sure that this side, the end result of this side, is very, very slightly shorter. So you almost get an asymmetry running through the cut. So just blend that together. You can see that's already very soft because there's not that much hair falling in that area. There's almost an asymmetry going on at the moment, but I'm going to exaggerate that very slightly. once I take the rest of the section down. Just bring that down. And I'll always do the focal point of the cut before I start on the layering, because your layering is based on the external shape of what you're working on anyway. So you need to determine that first before you move into that other area. Okay, now to finish off, what I'm going to do, to finish the front, is just take that level up higher on this side. Now, the height you take it is the decision you have to make. You have to totally judge that by using your mirror at all times so that you can see the balance of the haircut. And if you're not looking in the mirror when you're doing that, then you're going to get the balance wrong. It's the only judgment you have. There is no right or wrong length. There isn't a right or wrong way of creating an asymmetric. You have to just do it by balance. You can see a nice shape already formed in there. Now from that, what I'm going to do is to move in to the back section and create the layers that I want to go through this. Now, I do like the heaviness on the underneath, and the heaviness that we've got there and the thickness I'd like to maintain. So what I'm going to do is just come through that area of the cut, the underneath, and I'm just going to section it off. And what I'm going to do is to just go inside that and release a little bit of texture. Now Caroline's hair, she's got a lot of hair, a lot of density of hair, and a medium textured hair, but it tends to fuse together. So when it's blow dried or left to dry without product, etc., it tends to fuse together and become very flat. So what I'm going to do is to just go inside the haircut that's already there, and I'm just going to texturize it slightly. So what I'm going to do is to change the blade on my razor. And just go for the slightly thicker one, so you've got sort of spacing in between. And up to now I've used it to create a strong line or a sort of baseline, but now what I'm going to do is to work with the line that's already there, and I'm going to go inside and put the flat of the razor against the hair. And what you do is you just carve it out. So what happens is where the razor hits the hair, you lose some of the hair. It's a little bit like taking a pair of scissors and cutting into it, and point cutting in between. Same effect, much quicker, much easier, and it creates a texture right across. See that there? Just turn you around here, that's it. It creates a texture right across the line. And it's almost quite blunt as well, the texturizing that you're creating there. Because you do that, it just releases a little bit more texture, stops the hair from sitting flat. You get actually more volume, but you haven't lost any weight on your baseline when you've done it. And you can go right through this, quite freehand, to create this texture. But remember, you do have to hold the blade flat against the hair and just slide the razor down the hair shaft. Okay, now, just going to go back to the other blade. Because I'm going to go inside and release a little more texture inside this haircut here. Okay, now I've changed the blade. What I want to do is to go inside here and maintain some long layers and some short layers all within the same area of the cut. So to create these sort of different lengths in the hair, it gives it a great movement. It gives the opportunity also to create a lot of texture if you're blow drying through here, or create a really soft, flat look as well. So erratic lengths do give you a really nice texture in the cut. To create that, if you're working from a long haircut, really what you should do is to just club cut all these layers off to get it to about this length. And then you would work through with a razor. The idea is you have a choice to do it with a small tooth, which is this one here, or you can use this one here, which is very large, on very, very thick hair, or the one that I was using a little earlier, which is slightly smaller. The one I'm using actually is this one here. Again, you use it against the flat of the hair to create the texture. And really, I'm only dealing with this area of the cut round here. And you can see how heavy that is. I quite like the idea of the length of the layering, but what I want to do is to create more of a texture inside it. So, you start by taking the sections as if you're going to be layering it, but not obviously with the blade of the scissors. You didn't do it with the razor. And what you do is you take the hair and you hold it out, again from the underneath, because it's much easier to control when you hold it from the underneath. And the idea is to create really quite erratic lengths. So you put the flat of the blade against the hair, and you can see what happens there. That you get almost a combed area of texture when you run the blade through it. So you take the hair, you place the blade across the flat of the hair, and you start to remove some of the texture and the weight. Now, you can go as close or towards the end of the hair as you like, but what it will do, if I lift that up, you see inside there you've got some short layers and some long ones all inside each other. And again, it gives you an expansive hair, but gives you shortness inside as well. Now, when you're doing this, you can remove up to 70% of the hair quite successfully and still create a really lovely effect in the hair. But it's always better to keep checking it and see how much you're removing as you're working through. So concentrating around the crown area, you can see how much is taken off, and you can see all the short areas inside. Also, you have to guide yourself through how much of that you want textured. You can see it inside there, look. So always keep checking the amount of weight in the haircut as you're working, because that will determine how much hair you remove. It's always quite nice to get a few shorter pieces running through. You can see that crown area here, but running through the crown area, because it does give quite a nice effect and a nice silhouette to the shape. I'm a great believer that hair should look absolutely just as good when it's wet as when it's dry. And if it doesn't, it's because the shape isn't quite there. You should be able to see absolutely every part of the cut. The whole feeling of the haircut, the whole design of the haircut should jump out once the hair is wet. Just work your way right down the section and just keep checking inside to see how much short and long hair pieces there are inside. I have to say that the razor edge gives the most amazing effect when you're using it for texturizing. Most hairdressers actually will use a razor for texturizing rather than cutting a line. But this new Beverly C razor edge can give you both of those. You can cut blunt lines and create that texture at the same time. Now you do have to check it visually. Not sure how far or how much you can see on the camera, but you can see all the short hair inside it. Now what I would do is go inside that and just release a little bit inside the crown, and that the shorter hair will then support the longer pieces that flow out of that. And you can do that, if I just come to the other side, and just wet the hair down a little bit. What I'm going to do is to just go inside this piece right here and just to release a little bit more shorter hair inside that. And the best and easiest way to do it is to come inside this way, lift the hair right up in front of you, and use the blade against the hair like that, literally straight on. And you can carve out some extra shorter pieces. Make sure your blade's nice and sharp. You can do that wherever you feel you need to get a little bit more shortness running through here. You can see how those long and short lengths work really well together. Now, the beauty about the razor as well is that you can use this once you've finished. If you find that you've dried the hair and you haven't relieved enough texture through the haircut, you can always sculpture a little bit more out later, even when the hair's dry. Right, moving on, what I want to do is to create the same type of effect. So erratic, very disjointed lengths all the way through. And as erratic and disjointed as they are, you still need to plan that. You still need to make sure that you're taking them to the right length and you're removing enough weight to release the texture. I'm just going to wet the hair down. I want the effect of the haircut to be fairly geometric in its look, but I want that softness running through on inside the cut. So what I'm going to do is to take it from there. I've done the back section so far, and I'm going to work this through to the front. Working just in front of the parting, like so. Making sure you can see your baseline as you're working, so you're not cutting into the baseline. Lift the hair up, and again, place the blade to where you want it to be. Sometimes you'll find yourself texturizing as low as that, but this is where I want to work, just in this area here. And you can see, if you keep hold of that hair, you can see how much hair you're removing as you work through. And you just very gently carve into the hair to create the short and long pieces. Lift the hair from underneath. Obviously, when you're doing this, you don't re-hold the hair you've just cut. You hold a totally new section. And again, you can check inside the cut and see how much has been removed. And you just work to the section just before the front. And again, you look at it, you can see it when it's wet, you can see how much movement is going through the hair. So completed that panel here. What I now want to do is to do the same thing just through here. Taking vertical sections and the same thing. Nice and neatly. You can totally see it as you're working. There's your long pieces left and the rest is all short inside. Now what that does is it gives you a really nice soft texture inside. And the external shape being a lot stronger. Now this is where you look at a haircut when you're doing it, once you've planned it out and you've executed the cut and used all the techniques you need to do that. You then have to look at it. Again, use your mirror. Your mirror is everything. And this is where you would look at not just the mirror, but the face shape you're working on. And if you feel that it's too heavy in a certain area, this is the time where you'd start to personalize it. So you'd look at that, and if you feel it's too heavy one side and it's too thick, then go in and release a little bit more texture without destroying the shape that's there. Now we've got that very nice asymmetry, very simple shape, but nice asymmetry running through on both sides. And what I'm going to do is to go straight into the finishing of this. And I'd like to maintain a really nice, smooth finish. I want to show the beauty of the asymmetry and the sort of almost geometric feel to this cut, but at the same time see some softness going through it. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the spray through the hair, just to coat the hair and make the hair move in the right direction. And Crystal Styler lotion is very light, so it's just going to coat the hair and give it a little bit of volume. And what I'm going to do is to use the power of the dryer. I might use a little bit of brush work, but really what I'd like to do is to get this to flow down and just turn out slightly, and the rest will sit fairly flat. Before I go on, with even very little product through there, just by blasting through the hair, you can see you just get this lovely texture. The hair that would normally sit and fuse together separates out because of the short hair on the underneath. Now what I'm going to do is to just add a little product to the hair using a pomade called Brilliant Affair. And add some of this in. Now it's really adds a lot of shine to the hair, and it's not a heavy product, so it's not going to weigh down the hair, but it's also not going to give us a really full, wild texture. What I'm trying to achieve is a nice shine on the hair, little separation, but to keep that lovely feeling of a sleek sort of geometric shape with a bit of softness in it. So just put that through, blow dry that in. Okay, and that's a completed haircut. But before I finish off, I just want to show you that the undercut, if we can have a close look here, the undercut is really soft and very feminine. And if you were then to just take that, tuck that back in here, like that, all you do is expose that area of the undercut, which is still really quite pretty there. And that is quite a strong line. And then you would have this sort of long, choppy fringe that goes down to the sort of longer length through here, and it gives you a really nice shape. So you can exaggerate the asymmetry on it by tucking it behind the ears. It's nice to keep it fairly flat. A little bit of texture in there just to give a little bit of shape to the cut. But a really, really simple shape. And if I just twist around, really simple shape, sort of flowing into the rest of the cut. This is obviously being the focal point and showing off this lovely veil of colour. This area is obviously the most important part of the design, so just a veil of colour running through that just to exaggerate it.